Well, today we are going to talk about the top 5 tweakments that are the most effective for women over 50 with specialist aesthetics writer and founder of the Tweakments Guide, Alice Hart Davis. And you're probably wondering what is a tweakment and a tweakment guide. Can you tell I love saying that word, tweakment? Alice will explain the tweakment, but the guide is a content and e-commerce business focused on aesthetic treatments and skincare. And this means that you can go to the website for trusted advice on non-invasive cosmetic treatments. And Alice has pretty much done it all and is sharing not only her own experiences, but all the research she does from her 20 years of reporting on the beauty and the medical aesthetics industry. Alice is an authority in this area, and her mission is to educate and to be authentic and bring transparency into the world of aesthetics, which we need so badly. And her website is honestly phenomenal. It is super educational. And if you're lucky enough to live in the UK, she shares her favorite and most trusted practitioners too. And she's got tons of videos and really easy to browse through information for either a quick answer or a deep dive into a treatment that you're really curious about. And she shares brands. Yay. She has a whole section where you can find the brands she trusts and loves, and it's all categorized by either the brands, the concern, or the skin type. There is a ton of work that went into this, and I take my hat off to Alice for doing such an amazing job. Thank you. And if you're into social media, she's got great content on Instagram, where I first found her. She's got content on Facebook and YouTube. And when you check out all her videos, you will not believe she's nearly 60 years old. She's making aging look so attractive, and we need more role models like her. So now, without further ado, please meet Alice Hart Davis. Welcome.
Thank you, Zora. What a fantastic introduction. And hi, everybody. It's so amazing to be doing a live podcast. I was just saying to Zora, I've not done one of these before. So fab to have you there in the audience to be able to see you as well. And yeah, looking forward to getting to your questions at the end as well.
Yeah, you guys, I know you're going to think of stuff that I forgot about. So first of all, Alice, thank you for all the incredible work that you do. It really helps us figure it all out and decide if and what we need to do to look our best. And you're really bringing hope and inspiration to aging. I know you take really great care of yourself, and it's time and money invested in blood, sweat, and tears, literally.
Yeah.
And it's paying off. I mean, before we talk about the top 5 treatments, tell me, how did you even get into the world of beauty and aesthetics?
Okay, well, it was one of those lucky things. I mean, I'd been a journalist for quite a long time before I moved into this area. I was working at a London evening paper where they always want to know what's the latest thing that's going on. I was covering health, and they started saying there are all these doctors, all these dermatologists. This was about 1997, 98. And they wanted to know, what are they doing? What are they up to? What can be done with all these things? I mean, back then it was mainly toxin, it was laser, and it was collagen injections still. But I started writing about it. I found it was completely fascinating. I was coming up to sort of 30, I was 35, 38, I was coming up to 40 as this was all picking up. And it's the kind of thing where, if I was younger, I might have looked at it and thought, oh, this is all very strange. But when you find yourself kind of looking older every week, because I had 3 small children, I was working full time, you start to think, would it be so bad to try some of this stuff? So I started trying it. I've been writing about it. I've been very open about all the things I've tried. And it's much less talked about, the whole aesthetics area in the UK than it is in the States. And but I wanted to write a book around something. I'd written a couple of skincare books with my daughters when they were younger, and I thought by about 5 years ago, I think the world is ready for this, because the questions I was getting from people were less about, because it always used to be, if you write beauty, they always ask, what's the best moisturizer, without fail. That's a dominant question, you could say. But when it started to be, would Botox work for me? you're sitting, oh, right, this is really interesting. I mean, it usually was a very quiet conversation in a corner behind a hand. Nobody wanted to talk about it, but they wanted to know. And I thought, right, I need to put all this information out there, because I've had this huge privilege of working with the best doctors, nurses, dermatologists, cosmetic surgeons in this area. Right from the start, I've had the chance to ask them all the questions. I've worked with the brands in this area. I've seen it develop from, you know, the basic way that it was 25 years ago to the way it's exploded, particularly over the last 10 years. And I know the people, I know the background. So and most of the information that comes out about all these procedures will be put out by a company or a practitioner who's offering them. And I thought I would just try and say, here is an independent sort of factual approach to all these things. And obviously I like some procedures more than others, particularly ones I've tried that have worked well or that I can see working well on other people. But there is so much confusion in general around this whole area. I really wanted to create this resource, which is the content platform now, where people could go and find out what they needed to find out just to try and get a start in this area on what might suit their particular concerns. Because, you know, we're all different. Some people just want a bit of skincare, some people want cosmetic surgery, and we all fall somewhere along that line. And I wanted to be able to offer appropriate advice for anybody at whatever stage they are on that journey.
It's exactly what we need, because when you get curious about, say, Botox or some treatment, you go to that person for a consult, and of course they're going to want to sell you whatever it is that they're selling and going to say it's great and it will work. And it's not true. It doesn't always work. It's not always that great. And maybe the treatment's great, but the practitioner isn't, or, you know, vice versa. So I really think this is something that we all need, especially now, like you said, in the last 10 years, there's so much out there. Before it was, yes, very limited, and it was yes or no. Now it's like, yes, maybe, I don't know. Are there any risks? I think we've all seen the gone wrong videos or photos. So that scares a lot of us. Maybe we shouldn't even go there. But then when you hit your 50s or 60s, you're like, maybe I should have started earlier. So it's just so confusing. And you have taken out that confusion. And I really encourage people. I know I keep talking about your website, but it is so easy to use. And it helps you make some of those decisions actually pretty quickly, you know, in addition to all your other content you have. But it is something we really need. And I think it's great that we can trust you, and you've tried stuff, and it's no guarantee, I think, that things will work for you or not. You know, you've gone through it yourself, and you've gone through a lot of people. I'm sure people give you a lot of feedback as well, but you know, it's a great place to start. So, you know, when did you start the Tweakments guide? Maybe you should explain, what is a tweakment?
Okay, a tweakment is, it's a sort of colloquial term for a non-surgical cosmetic procedure, or people often call them non-invasive procedures, but an awful lot of these procedures use needles, and quite a lot of needles nowadays, things like radiofrequency microneedling. So non-invasive, minimally invasive procedures. So a tweakment, it's a little small something. It's certainly not a facelift. It doesn't involve a scalpel. It will probably be very little downtime, if any, but then, you know, when you're talking about lasers, depending on how strongly you might want to have a laser treatment, you could be looking at significant downtime. So it's a non-surgical cosmetic procedure that should make a small but noticeable improvement to whatever aspect it is of your face, or indeed body that you're looking to work on.
Yeah, you also go through some body treatments, which are really fantastic as well, and help us figure that out. And it's like you said, they're like, there's a spectrum, right? We all kind of fall somewhere. I mean, if you use sunscreen or moisturizer, that's already, you know, one end of the spectrum, up until, you know, full face surgery. So it is great that we have options. I mean, we don't all have the tons of money to get a facelift or even want to. So knowing that we have these little options, like you said, makes it's a small but significant difference. And even if it's not significant so much to the outside, for you on the inside, or for you, you may notice a huge difference. And I'm a gerontologist, so we study people and aging and all that. And there is this these studies that are out there where we're showing that people who actually feel better are healthier, right? And it's not necessarily just because they are healthy. I mean, some of them have diseases or issues, but they feel good because they're taking care of themselves, or they dress nicely, or their hygiene is great, or they're getting good sleep, or getting these tweakments, right? So yeah, I would encourage women to not feel bad or feel guilty. This is something that actually may improve your health in the long run, and perhaps your longevity. So it's great that we have some choices, and we can look into them with you. So tell us a little bit more about the Tweakments guide. I know I missed out a ton of stuff, but
Okay,
when did you start it?
It's so interesting what you're saying about, because I'm really fascinated by all the hacks, the basic sort of biological stuff you can do to improve the way we function. Everything from the cold exposure to breath work to what we're eating, the importance of the biome, microbiome, the gut, for how it kicks into the skin and the brain. So I'm very aware that Tweakments are icing on the cake. They are the powder and paint of this whole spectrum. And I was trying to remember who I was talking to, who was pointing out that when they first got into this whole area, it was all about looking good, all the treatments, the makeup, everything. Whereas now an awful lot of it is about feeling good. And that's a big change, I think, in the past 10 years. We have actually realized feeling good is really essential for our well-being in so many ways. But you asked about the Tweakments guide. So I wrote a book, a first book called The Tweakments Guide, Fresher Face, because if you ask people, mostly women, but men too, what they are looking for from Tweakments, they will all tell you it's not that they want to look younger. I think we do, but that's debatable. But if they want to look, because we don't want to look older, do we? Therefore, we want to look younger. But anyway, but what they really want is to look fresher, to look rested, relaxed, refreshed. So I went for fresher face, because that's something we can admit to wanting. I think we all want to look fresh. We all want to look like we've come back from holiday. And because a book is a rather static thing, I wanted to develop it into a website, which has become this whole content platform, so that you can go on there and you think, well, where do I start? There's an icon of a face. You can hover over eyes and see what the concerns, because a lot of us don't even know how to articulate what we're seeing in our faces. I get a lot of people saying, I just don't like the way I look, or I look sad, or I look tired, and they don't know what they want or need. But also I felt if we could direct people to great aesthetic practitioners, they are the ones who can interpret what they're seeing on people's faces, how those people are feeling about themselves and their looks, and help them work towards a plan of treatment that will suit their aspirations, or be in line with their budget, that won't induce too much social downtime if they're not up for that. Because most people are pretty cautious in this area. I mean, you said how the difficult thing in this area is that people only see the bad work. Nobody ever notices the good work. And people will say to me, oh, filler always looks terrible. You can always tell. I could point you to hundreds of people who would defy that. But a very famous plastic surgeon was saying the same thing to me the other day. He said people always say to him, I've never seen a good facelift. And he said, that's because it hasn't jumped out at you. You've not noticed it, and him and his colleagues doing all this stuff for decades. So it's all about trying to get it right. So I have this list of practitioners on my website. I mean, I started with the ones I know. I add in people whose work can be recommended to me by people who are already on there, or the ones who work with the top brands, or I meet a lot of them going around the world at the conferences that are held continually everywhere, about this area, because it's growing so fast and it's so fascinating. And there are, particularly in the UK, we really struggle with the lack of regulation around aesthetics, because here there's no limit on who can offer these treatments. So, you or I can order fillers, needles off the internet. We can start injecting anybody we like. There is no requirement to be licensed, to have a medical certificate, to even have done any training. And there are lots of training courses which will train non-medics, give them a day or two, learning not very much, and off they go, advertising on Facebook. If anything goes wrong with their work, and it often does, they simply close down the operation and move elsewhere. So because the whole industry in the UK is really tarnished by that image, the knowledge of that, and because the British media, who love a negative story, are always focusing on poor girls who've gone and got lip filler and it's all gone wrong, it's been injected into a blood vessel, it's blown up, they then go to hospital. But the accident and emergency departments here, they don't understand or recognize aesthetic complications, and why should they? So they get dismissed with, oh, it's a bruise, and these things can be really serious. So all the good practitioners spend an unfortunate amount of time repairing the work done by the rubbish people, but that does mean that there's a very negative image of this whole area in the UK. But at the same time, there is a lot of excellence out there, and that's what I try and concentrate on and point out people, all to people, all those practitioners on my site, they're all people I would trust with my own face, because I know they do good work and they are responsible, and they won't suggest treatments that aren't appropriate or relevant for people. Because you mentioned earlier, there is that difficulty where people go to see a doctor and they leave with a list of potential things they could do, and then they call me up and say, I went to see them because I was just worried about this one wrinkle or this little bit of drooping. All I want is this, they say. And they suggested all this stuff. Am I being upsold? And you think, well, the difficulty is if you've got to 50, 55 and you haven't done any of these things, and you're not genetically blessed with supermodel bone structure, then there's probably more than one thing going on in your face. And you could fix it all at once with having a surgical facelift and a lot of lasering, maybe. But most of us are simply not up for all that. And so all of these tweakments will work one at a time, really, to do different things, because people will say, what's the best treatment? You think, well, this one will relax your wrinkles, this one will clear pigmentation, this one will improve the structure of your face, this one will melt extra bits of fat in a double chin. But there's not one of them that does all of those things, and everybody's concerns are very individual. You also get the fact that what matters to each of us is not necessarily what other people see about our faces. I remember one of the old wise experts in this field when I first started telling me about how he learnt to be much more gentle and thoughtful in his consultations with potential patients, because somebody had come in, it was the end of the afternoon, he'd had a good day, he was looking forward to going home, and she sat down in front of him and he said, so Mrs. Smith, you'll be looking to get rid of that great hairy mole on your cheek, won't you? And she looked at him and said, what mole, doctor? I've come about this wrinkle. And he thought, oh, he wished the floor would open up and swallow him whole. And he said he never dived in giving his opinion after that. It's always have a discussion. How can I help you? What is bothering you?
Yeah.
So
what they say, the word assume, if you assume, then it makes an ass out of you and me, right? Assume.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, I didn't know that.
We should never assume, we know.
Okay, I will remember that. Thank you, Zora.
Yeah, so it's absolutely true. I think this is where we really need good doctors who can give us options in the sense that be really honest with us, because yes, you may come in and yeah, ideally in an ideal world, you want to spend all this money and get all these things done to get what it is that you're looking for, let's say. But at the same time, who has the money to do that? It's really rare. So maybe a good doctor would say, either you don't need that, really, you can do this instead. And I think it's really hard. I mean, I went in to do I was doing a lot of live streaming before, and I was doing and blogging for with this cosmetic doctor, and she did medical aesthetics, she did surgeries and everything. And after the interview, I said, so, what would you do with me? Just, I'm here. Yeah.
Right.
What would, and I knew I have hooded eyes and I got to do, some of that. One day I'll have to get a surgery or something, but that was the only thing I kind of thought, oh, she'll pick out that. She went through and just ripped me apart. And I was like, oh my God, I walked in here full of confidence, thinking I look fab. And I left going, shoot, I need $50,000. Like, fix me.
Oh, sorry. You look amazing. You do know that, don't you?
But I wanted to actually, I never wrote the article, but it'd be great to hear your opinion, is that it could be very dangerous walking into a clinic like that, really, because I was confident. I'm fine. I mean, this is also like 5 years ago. So, I was perfectly content. But I do remember walking out there feeling kind of ugly. And somebody really pointing this out to me. And I said, this is really dangerous, especially if you're not confident, if you really don't like the way you look. It would be really hard to get out of that. I mean, I just kind of slap myself in the face and go, okay, right, let's write this article. But I can see that happening. And I would really appreciate a doctor who would maybe structure it differently, and make some suggestions, but not throw this all at you at once.
No, totally. And it's one thing I do try and emphasize when I get the chance to talk to doctors, surgeons, nurses at some of these conferences. I'm asked about, connecting with your midlife audience. And I will try and say, be kind, because what they don't always remember, if they're young and beautiful, or if they're borderline on the spectrum, or if they're in a hurry, or if they're arrogant, is that it is still a pretty big deal for a woman usually women, to come and present themselves for the first time in their office and admit that they are feeling anxious, bad, awful about how they look. And to the doctor, it can just be another face. But to this woman, it's a big deal. And, they don't know what she's got going on in her life. She could have lost her job, a disproportionate a number of women in their 50s have lost their jobs, certainly in the UK, since the start of the pandemic. The numbers are awful. Her relationship could be coming to an end. She could have been diagnosed with one thing or another. She's struggling with aging parents, teenagers, family issues of all sorts. They don't know, they can't presume. And if they say anything to somebody who is fragile in any way like that, it's not necessarily fragility, it's just showing vulnerability, isn't it? It can be devastating. Yeah, I know, because then they get in my direct messages and say, I know you like Dr. So-and-so, but I went to see them and I have to say, they said this to me, they said that, and it was very upsetting. And you think, oh, heck, that's awful. And I do get to hear about this. So yeah, I will try and emphasize to them to be kind, because it's a big deal having any of these procedures done. I'm always taken aback by, even now, 20 years on from when I started having these things done, how incredibly vulnerable you feel once you're in that chair as the patient. Even if I know all the technical details of the procedure, I know and trust the practitioner, I'm prepared in all sorts of ways. And yet, once the thing sets off, the procedure, I was trying a new kind of ultrasound skin tightening treatment last week before. And I was a little bit apprehensive because I'd had to have not one, but 2 layers of 23% numbing cream on my face. And you think, oh, okay, so this is not going to be a pain-free experience. And we were filming, and so, you know, your adrenaline levels are quite high, which doesn't help with the pain management. And it started, and ultrasound is a funny, it's got a sort of zinging little pulse, which takes about 5 seconds. So I found in the past, it can kind of bite at any time. This is a new kind of machine with a slightly different technology, and the discomfort rose 1, 2, 3, and then fell away. So, but because it was started under the chin, which usually isn't too uncomfortable an area, and I just thought, oh dear, this is not easy, and this is going to go on for 40 minutes. And you know, you said you had those Paramol, paracetamol-based sort of things on the shelf. You know, can I just get a couple of those? I know it'll take 20 minutes to kick in, but that's when I will need it, when we get up around the forehead where there is no padding. And it's a great treatment. It's called Softwave, and it's a I'm not sure if it's in the States yet. I think it will be soon. I know it's launching in Canada in like October, but very interesting technology for tightening up the skin, not like the HIFU, which is high intensity focused ultrasound, things like ultracell or ultherapy, because those use beams of ultrasound that kind of merge to a point beneath the skin, creating a little hot spot which coagulates the collagen on the SMAS layer, the sort of muscle layer that surgeons manipulate during facial surgery. But this new one, it kind of has parallel beams of ultrasound which sort of join up under the skin, and then you get that little zing, zing, zing. It doesn't go so deep as the other one. So this is certainly not going to destroy any fat in the face, which is an accusation often leveled at brands of HIFU, the other type of ultrasound. And I've been really keen to try it. So I now have to sit and wait for 3 months to see what will happen, because, you know, and I hope something does, because I do think it's a good technology.
So that was the first time you tried it, then?
That was the first time I tried it. But I tend to think, oh, it'll be easy. I'm so familiar with these treatments, but I know getting on the bed, being confronted with a new machine and thinking, oh, I hope this isn't the one where it all goes wrong.
I don't want to be one of those go wrong photos.
Yeah. Oh no, it's, you know, things have gone wrong in the past, and I'm hugely aware. You spoke earlier about the risks, which is a really useful thing to point out, because no procedure is entirely risk-free. There are things that happen often. There are things that happen very rarely. With any procedure, you know, anything that involves needles, there's a risk of bruising or swelling, a bit of redness, and we all respond rather differently. I mean, when having lip injections, you know, I find my lips will swell later that day, they'll start going down the next day, but other people can find themselves really swollen for a week, and they panic and think something's wrong, but it's just an individual reaction. So you know, you ought to know, because your practitioner ought to point it out to you, what all the potential risks are. You should have signed a consent form saying that you have read all these things. I think things like, you know, when Linda Evangelista spoke up last year about the issues, the problems she'd had after a kind of fat freezing procedure. I think that was a big shock for people, because they were like, but this procedure is used everywhere. How could it go wrong? And well, that is a known complication of that procedure. It's been known since 2014. It's been on the consent form certainly since then. But I don't know whether people don't read them very closely, or don't have them explained, or think, you know, it's such a small percentage that it won't happen to me. But, you know, it can. And she bravely spoke out about it.
Yes, I'm so glad she did. And we need more people to just, you know, to be honest. And I think those forms too, we just glaze over. If we really want it, what are we going to do? You know, if you're in there, you're going to say no and then walk out. I mean, that's your option. Then don't sign and you leave, or you sign and you do it. So if you're just decided to do it, you got to do it. But and we kind of we put the blinders on and be like, yeah, I'm not going to even, you know, go there, because I don't want that to happen to me. but let's dive into the 5 tweakments,
Oh,
you know,
sure.
because
Yeah.
I know this, I mean, must be really hard, because asking you to say 5 of them out of the, you know, dozens, if not hundreds that you've done is a little, it's quite demanding. But let's focus on a woman over 50, right? This is my audience. So let's say, what is the biggest problem you see or complaint that you have among this population? And then what are those tweakments that you would recommend?
Okay. Interestingly, one of the biggest complaints, it's a rather nebulous one. It's that I don't recognize myself. I feel I've lost me, they say. I don't quite know what it is, but I don't like the way I look. You know, there are very common things like frown lines, grumpy face and sad face. So let's talk about that, because that is the way our muscle patterns, our habitual expressions, they set in over time. And whether we're always doing that, or I don't really frown this, and plus I have toxins, so there's not much of a line up there. But, you know, wrinkle relaxing toxins, which I talk about in a general way, because they're all prescription medicines in the UK, and if you so much as mention their names out loud, it's judged to be a promotion of them, which I always would argue that I'm just educating. But anyways, that's why I refer to them as wrinkle relaxing toxins. They are really helpful. A lot of people fear them, again, because they see bad work, but they can relax frown lines, the kind of horizontal lines we get on the forehead. I don't mind the horizontal lines. I have buckets of crow's feet lines. They're great for that. And for subtler things like grumpy face, where you pull down, there's a muscle here called the DAO, which pulls down the corner of the mouth, and that can get really settled in. If you free that up, it can just rise up. Also, if you have these bands of the platysma muscle, which is like a whole collar that comes down here, if that starts standing out in bands because of just tension in the neck, injections in there can soften it. So I find I tend to have a whole face treatment every few months, probably every 4 or 5 months or so, of buckets of the stuff, and it's very helpful. And when injected by a thoughtful practitioner, you know, a lot of the other practitioners say, oh, you don't have very much of this, do you? Because I still have loads of wrinkles around here. You know, I have plenty, you know, this is fine for me. I don't want an immobile face. So that is a really good one, because if people are just bothered about frown lines, particularly here, the absolute classic, the glabella lines, they're called, those 11s, the vertical lines there, you know, that's a really quick little fix. Why practitioners like doing a full face treatment is because if you knock out one area of the face and everything else is still moving, it can look a bit odd, or you get they put a bit too much, a bit too low here, and the eyebrows kind of somehow drift apart. I think we've all seen people, you see them on social media and you think, what's happened? And their eyebrows, they've kind of, yeah, moved apart, or you know, the obvious thing where the corners of the eyebrow coming up too much. Exactly.
Spock eyebrows.
Spock, yeah. All of that, or where just the center, or when they make expressions, it looks as if someone's taken an eraser to just the central bit of their face, and the rest is working. And you think, I mean, it's fine, each to their own, but there are loads of good practitioners who can get you around that. And then I guess injectable filler is the other really obvious one to talk about.
Can I interrupt you for a second? Because interesting that you say about Botox, or sorry, toxins, muscle relaxing toxins.
You can say whatever.
Okay. Yeah, we're not promoting brands. We just, you know, it's an easier way to say it. But so, yeah, because this is all kind of a new world for me too. And so you know, afraid always the first time to do this. And I heard the word baby Botox, and I'm like, oh, that's a good way to dip your toes into it. And the only thing that really bothered me was those 11 lines, because it does make you look like you're angry or something all the
Yeah,
time. And
yeah,
it does change. Yeah. That's, I think you're right, absolutely right. So that was what I said, what, that's the only thing I really want to do. But, doctor after doctor I would see, they were like, no, I want to do here, 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 and all over. And I was like, well, I think they're just trying to upsell me. I want the baby Botox just to start and dip my toe in. But actually what you're saying now makes perfect sense now. And that was later on explained to me, and I get it now. But yes, that's probably what a lot of people will probably like me going, I'm afraid, I just want to dip my toes in, let's try. Because also the first time you're trying a practitioner and you don't know if they're going to
yeah,
do it right or wrong. I mean, even if they're recommended, you're
yes.
scared. So I think that's probably where we're getting all these things. So what you're saying is actually, hopefully you have a good practitioner, and it's not about selling you the whole bottle of toxins. They just want to have the harmony, I guess, in the face.
They're looking at it possibly from a kind of idealized point of view. But if they understand you and your anxieties, they then should say, they ought to be able to explain that and say, what I'd really like to do is this, let's just start with it. And why, if they tell you why, then you understand it's not simply a massive upsell, which of course is what it looks like. While you're here, why don't you think about all these other things, because as you found with that experience with the person who quickly racked up 50 grand's worth of treatment, there is always stuff to do. I have to be feeling quite strong before I go and submit myself for when a practitioner says, I'd love to give you an assessment of your face, I really could do without that. I know I'm hyper aware of the various inconsistencies in my face and what people would suggest, and like you found, I mean, it usually does nothing but make you feel bad and judge yourself more harshly, and that's not what this is about at all. So yeah, it would be kinder to say, yes, start with a little bit of this. If you like that, what I'd really like to do is balance up the other end. I for years had toxin in a particular pattern, which I was trying to explain to some other elite injector. And when I said that, she said, yeah, sounds a bit blocky, that kind of treatment. And I thought, oh no, don't say I've been going around with obviously blocky toxin for years. I thought it was fine. So, one can worry too much about these things.
So let's move on to the fillers. So the first one was the toxins, and the second one we've got fillers, right?
Yeah, fillers. Appropriate use of filler is really helpful as we age, because one of the things that's happening as we age, we all know that the lovely supportive fat pads under our skin, the superficial ones and the deeper ones, they start to sort of slide and we seem to lose volume because they're kind of descending down the face, and they often gather unhelpfully under our chin, because gravity is doing its thing. And a little bit of filler in the right places can help prop things up. And because the other thing that's happening in your face is that we're losing bone as we age, we're losing bone mass. So that means that all the bony arches of the face, one up here in the brow, one here in the mid face, then the one around the chin, they're all shrinking. So it's like losing weight inside a tight dress or whatever. There is less volume to hold the skin out. So of course the skin sags. Our skull is actually getting smaller inside our head, and things like, our eyes tend to look a bit more hollow, because if you look at the skeleton of a skull of an ancient female, you'll see there's big eye sockets, whereas in a young female, they're nice small tight eye sockets. So if we have that feeling looking in the mirror that our eyes are falling back into our heads a bit, they actually are. So but where filler comes in is because you can use it to prop up the bone structure, along the cheek. You can go along the jawline, because this angle of the jaw, this bit gets shorter as we age. So on an older skull, this length from here to here is much shorter. So it's got to be done nicely, thoughtfully, appropriately, because if you add it on the sides on a female face, you make it look more masculine. You want to make the length of the jaw longer, so you've got a nice angle there. Same thing with the chin, you know, and the jawline. And if we're losing our jawline into a bunch of jowls and it's all becoming kind of just neck, you know, you can put a bit of filler along there, just sharpens it up, etc. So and lips that start looking flatter, they can be injected again cautiously, appropriately. You know, I get asked a lot, should I have 1 mil or 2 mil filler in my lips? And I think that sounds like an awful lot. I would let your practitioner decide what's appropriate for your face, and particularly for a 50-something face. I think big lips look a bit inherently ridiculous, you know, so
everyone's doing it. I've seen so many people. It's like it's now it seems like everyone's doing it now and putting all this very glossy gloss, and I just tell myself they probably just got it today. They don't really want them to be that big, and no. I'm sure it'll calm down later. But I find it, maybe it's your circle of friends are all doing it, and that becomes attractive. And so in your mind, it's attractive. And again, if that's what you like I'm no one to judge. That's, you do what makes you happy. But I kind of agree with you. It seems that that's the thing of the day, of the moment, the trend of the lips. When actually people's lips are perfect, in my opinion, they look perfectly fine in the first place.
They're absolutely fine. Yeah, and there have been proper studies done showing that, you know, what you see, particularly if it's among your circle of friends or the imagery you look at, if you're looking at social media, it changes not just your perception, but it makes a sort of physiological change in the brain in the way that you look at these things. You know, they've done experiments where they show 6 lips from sort of thin to plumped up, and people choose what the ideal lip shape is. They bombard them with imagery for however long, of course, of inflated lips, and of course they end up shifting their what's beautiful idea, you know, further up that scale. Which you can see is why so many, you know, young girls, they just think they have to have these lips because that's what's lovely, and it's really hard to talk them down. And I get a lot of women whose daughters are talking of going off for lip filler, and the poor women, because they can see if they say no, the daughter will go off on her own. She will find somewhere cheap, someone who's not very skilled. They'll probably look awful. So it's often better for the woman to take her daughter to a highly skilled and thoughtful practitioner who can try and talk her down a bit about, you know, all the pros and cons, and maybe do a very small, appropriate treatment to satisfy her wish to have something done, and just try and help her to see what's lovely and what's ridiculous when it comes to lips, because I think a lot of people lose their
sense. They lose a little bit of the sense, but you know, it's like you said, you know, pretty much whatever it is that you surround yourself in, you get accustomed to it. I mean, who knows? Maybe in several years I'll be walking around with duck lips. I don't know. Who knows?
You'll get it done beautifully. They'll be just fine.
So fillers, we got the toxins, we got the fillers. What else?
Well, actually, one I wanted to start with that was a much simpler and completely non-invasive thing, which is LED light. Red and near infrared LED light is incredible for the skin if it's a kind of clinical grade light, the sort they have in those big canopies you get in clinics. And there's a couple of brands who make medical grade technology that you can get at home, Saluma and Dermalux. They've both got FDA approval. Saluma's got about 9, nearly 10 FDA clearances on theirs.
Is this the mask that you wear, that like Phantom of the Opera kind of thing?
No, it's like a little curvy panel that bends and you lie under it. I don't think those home use masks are actually strong enough, well enough made to make much difference. I haven't really seen any convincing clinical studies from any of those cheap home use masks, but the bigger ones, the ones that are actual medical grade technology made into a form you can have at home. I mean, they cost between sort of $1,500 and $2,000, a bit more in dollars. But you know, they work, and all you have to do is lie under it, because what that light is doing is remodeling the skin from inside. One of the Saluma guys was explaining to me recently, he likens it to sort of photosynthesis. You know, our cells, the mitochondria in our skin cells, know what to do when this light hits them. It energizes them. You know, they produce collagen, they produce elastin. I'm sorry, the dog has sat behind me, and he's like a hot water bottle. So it's 38 degrees here for people not in the UK, and this dog, he's very sweet, but sweet. He's now looking very aggrieved, but he's just been wedged behind my back on the sofa.
You never noticed.
Like a hot water bottle. So if you think I'm sweating a bit too much, oh, dog, it's not so bad.
It's interesting you say about the red light, because in the biohacking world, we talk a lot about red light therapy for injuries and pain and recovery and sleep. And even just yesterday, I had a discussion. I'm looking into the flex beam, and, you know, again, for pain. But so I asked, I said, can we put this on our face? Because I know, I want to do it.
Okay.
I want to get that collagen.
Yeah, it is wound healing. I mean, that's what it's doing. It's accelerating wound healing in the skin, and in the face, that's going to be more collagen, more elastin, and also bringing down inflammation, which is fantastic. So, you know, when you lie under one of these lights, you emerge with your skin looking that bit more consistent in tone and a little bit paler. And some of my friends who love their home use masks and say, well, it's lovely, it gives me a glow. And I say, well, it shouldn't be giving you a glow. That glow is just showing it's excited your blood molecules, and they're sort of rushing about. You know, what good quality LED light will do is bring down that inflammation. It will also, reduce pigmentation, and reduce skin redness. And the infrared, fantastic. It's medically certified for, you know, joint issues, isn't it? I mean, that's what you'll be using it for. And these stronger panels, which are approved as medical devices here in Europe, I know it's slightly different in the States, you know, they really can do that. And you have them at home. You just need to lie under them. And I know I was lent one of these things at the start of our first lockdown here. So I did lie under it nearly every day because there was not much else to do. And I couldn't obviously access all the normal tweakments that I might be doing in a 3-month period. And I had just had a very detailed scan of my face done before the lockdown started, just by chance. So I went back after 3 months to say, look, you know, before I get back on all the usual, I don't know, skin peels and lasers and what have you, has this thing made any difference? And it had taken 9 years off my skin age as measured by a Visio machine. There's a link on my website. I was so amazed. It was just it was less wrinkling, less pigmentation, less sun damage, you know, you name it. And that was the only thing that was different in those 3 months. And it was going from March through to July. So it wasn't like the middle of winter and I wasn't getting any UV exposure. So yeah, I've been a complete mad fan of it ever since.
I love that. But I would recommend people, this is our discussion, because I'm taking deep dive. I have the Juve, this is another red light therapy, and looking into the flex beam. And so discussions that are happening around is that people really need to be careful about where they're getting their red light therapy, and those cheap masks on Amazon, like, please don't do that. No. These things, to get a good quality bulb, good quality product, it's going to be expensive, unfortunately.
It is.
But you don't want to risk your face, because you will be doing more damage not only to your face or to your joints or to whatever it is that you're using it for. So please do your research, get something, invest in something that's good quality, and especially if you're going to use it on your face, and protect your eyes, right?
Totally. Yes, though it depends on the machine, because the Dermalux one has stronger light coming off it. They recommend, it stands a bit away from your face, they recommend wearing goggles. The Saluma one is closer to the face. They say no, because of it's not just the wavelength, the wavelength they use, which hits certain targets within the skin at at different points and has a slightly different effect. The physics of it completely baffles me. I have friends in that area who say, well, Alice, if you understood the first thing about photonics, and yeah, but I don't. So make it simple. So the Saluma one is really close to the face and you don't need goggles, but that's because of the way it's made, because of the wavelengths they use, because of the power outputs, but it is still massively effective. So it's really hard to have hard and fast rules about these things, but yeah, do your research, that's key.
Super cool. And so to get back a little bit, so we discussed one was toxins, two was fillers, and three was the red light therapy, which I'm so excited that you said that. And we can find, all this stuff. Do you have that, say, for example, the Dermalux, would you be able to find that on your website? Could we?
Yes, I forget. Do. And we, I mean, I have it in the shop on my website as well. It's fulfilled by a company here in the UK, but they deliver worldwide. And it has now got FDA clearance as well. So they may have a different way of providing it in the States. But yeah, it's deliverable worldwide, and it's a really good thing.
Oh, that's really cool. Okay. Yeah. Cause I know that you have this amazing shop. And so I'm not writing this stuff down. I have to go and listen to it again or just go into your shop. So, okay. We got 3 down. We got 2 more to go. What's sure. Number 4?
I would go for laser, which seems like quite an old standard. I mean, I know I think it's more popular and more widely used in the States than in the UK. The focus has kind of been off laser for a while. Which is mad, because it's an extremely capable technology, whether you want to use it for reducing pigmentation in the skin, simply tackling brown spots, sun damage, that kind of thing, or for removing thread veins, which most of us have a few of those. They tend to pick up at the pace as you get older. If you are a person who gets thread veins, you tend to get more of them, and lasering them will clear the ones that are there, but it won't stop you getting more of them. Or you can go for an old-fashioned CO2 laser to really ablate or burn away the top bits of the skin, which is amazing for freshening up the skin, because lovely, smooth, unwrinkled skin grows through in its place, but that obviously comes with a cost of significant downtime. But there is everything on the spectrum, from a lunchtime kind of laser facial, which just has a bit of a brightening effect on the skin. And if you have a course of treatments there, you can layer a lot of lightweight treatments and they will have a nice effect. Or anything stronger. Fractional laser is very popular. That's drilling tiny channels of damage into the skin, which will heal up over time. And again, that's really good for improving the texture of your skin, and making it all lovely and smoother and better functioning, producing more collagen, making it look smoother. So laser in all its many forms, but you do just need to find somebody who knows what they are doing with the laser, because particularly depending on your skin tone as well, it's perfectly possible to use laser on darker skin tones, but you need somebody who really knows what they're doing, because if you're treated inappropriately with laser, it can kick off hyperpigmentation in the skin, i.e. the melanin cells start producing even more pigment, which is exactly what you don't want. Or you can also get hypopigmentation, where the melanin basically gets destroyed and you end up with white patches, which is not what you want at all either. No. So somebody who's, with all of these things, you want a practitioner who has got great reviews, has done a lot of this work, preferably has worked on some of your friends who will admit to having the treatment, who can reassure you that it's going to be good, it's going to be appropriate, it will get you the results you want. But yeah, laser's having a bit of a resurgence, certainly in the UK.
I love that. I am a big fan of lasers. I do see a noticeable difference. Sure. I when I was younger, I would just do facials, and popping my skin, doing these kind of things. I come out of the beautician looking worse than when I walked in. But with the lasers, definitely, I've been lucky to find really great practitioners where I'm thinking, wow, actually, I see a difference. And so I again, like you said, it's a whole world of lasers out there. You just named like 3 of them. So, depending on what you need, of course, you need to have a good practitioner recommend about that. And that can, I think in your Tweakments guide, you give all these great information, but we're not really discussing now in terms of cost, in terms of length of recovery and all that. So I just recommend people to go there because we're running out of time. And
Hart, sorry. Okay, well, I'll speed up. Also, when people are looking at videos on my site, there are a number of sponsored videos. So I know I'm going on about independent information, but obviously there are a number of sponsored videos there. Some of the laser ones are with one of the top companies and they are brilliant. But I only work with companies whose stuff I really like, so I would say that, wouldn't I? But I mean, that is the whole premise of this thing. I know I'm not going to mislead people. I will do sponsored posts, but they're only on things I would absolutely do myself and think it's a good idea.
You have integrity, and you could lose that real fast by taking somebody that you would just
very aware. Yes.
So I think that's what people need to realize. You may have sponsored, but that's probably you've done a lot of work before you've accepted. And I do the same where, I would never recommend anything that I didn't try myself, or that I know maybe it works with me, but not with anyone else. And I'm not so interested either. I want, or maybe it works with most people and not with me. I want people to be understanding what is the best thing for them, and that we need transparency, we need integrity. So really, I'm trusting you on all of that, and I think everybody does. That you would never even talk about some other brand if you didn't really trust it or believe in it.
Appreciated. I thought I'd just mention it. And the last treatment, the 5th one that I would mention, which is hugely popular over here, and I know it is in the States as well, is radiofrequency microneedling. So microneedling is a brilliant technique using thousands of tiny needles repeatedly jabbed in the skin to create channels of damage in the skin. You get that wound healing response, more collagen, more elastin, better hydration, smoother skin. Radiofrequency is an energy form that delivers heat into the skin. Again, it causes thermal damage deep in the skin, and that encourages the poor collagen. Is like flash frying the collagen, really. It gets this heat shock, it contracts a bit, and then it remodels itself. And putting these 2 technologies together, you get a device with a massive needles that stab into the skin and release a zap of radiofrequency energy once they're in the skin, and that's repeated all over the face. So it's reasonably hardcore, depending how deep they go with the needles, how many passes they do. But putting those 2 technologies together gives a lot of skin tightening and skin refreshing, and it's great for texture. And there's various brands. Morpheus 8 is very popular over here. Secret RF from Utera. There's one from Cynosure called Potenza. I know Kim Kardashian has tried that and said it was amazing for her pigmentation, which you think, Kim, this is not a laser. It does not deal with pigmentation. She's also tried Morpheus 8 and said it was great for her pigmentation. But I think to her, everything is either a laser or a needle. And it doesn't help just because she's so massively influential. I get all these people sending me videos saying, she says it helped with her pigmentation. And you think, well, that's great, but it's not one of the claims that the brand would make for this technology. So if you want pigmentation, go for intense pulse light or laser. But as a treatment, it's good, it's effective. You need a course of 3 of them.
And this, you'd get into it with a medical doc. I mean, you would go to a medical esthetician, or
depends on the brand. Yes, some brands only allow their devices to go to medical doctors in the UK. And again, I think it'll vary by country, but some brands, they're fine to be used by well-trained estheticians who are not necessarily medically qualified. The Secret RF, you don't have to be a doctor or a nurse prescriber to do that. So so it depends. But yeah, and the difficulty with advising around this is that a well-trained nurse or an aesthetic practitioner who isn't a medical prescriber or a board certified this or that, they may well, they could often be very good with these devices, but again, you can't universally say anybody, this device is so simple, anybody can make a good go of it. It's always practitioner dependent. That's worth pointing out with any treatment.
I agree.
Even if it's using filler under the eyes for hollow eyes, tear troughs. Some people will say to me, should you always go to an oculoplastic surgeon for that? You think, well, not necessarily, because if that surgeon does an awful lot of blepharoplasties and doesn't use the filler very much, they're probably not as highly skilled as someone who is injecting with it day in, day out. So it just depends, which is a really annoying answer, but that's why you need to do your research.
Absolutely. And you've got some great recommendations, but I'm wondering, what about all of us who are maybe not in the UK? Do you have any?
One day, Thora, one day.
Yeah.
Global domination. Yeah, we try to go global, but not quite yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because we need those. So otherwise you guys make your trip out to the UK and go and try one of these practitioners. So we got it. We got 5. We got the toxins, we've got the fillers, we have the red light therapy, lasers, and microneedling. Those are the top 5 tweakments. And I could go on forever and have billions and one questions, but I'm going to open up the mic to everyone else. Sure. But before I do, there's a question here. And I also have one question that I promised to ask from somebody who's following me. And she asked, what is the best treatment for rough orange peel type skin?
Rough orange peel type skin. Okay, on the face.
Yes.
I would think one of those resurfacing treatments, so maybe radiofrequency microneedling, because that's great. That gets down deep enough to really encourage the skin to remodel itself, or laser, or a fractional laser or an ablative laser. But I mean, to start with skincare, there's a lot of great skincare that can just help. So if she begins by, obviously SPF during the day, but a retinoid at night, something with retinol or a prescription kind of retinoid at night, they will really help just to normalize the skin. So in older skin, it will make the skin cells turn over a bit faster. It will normalize oil production. It will stimulate collagen production and all the rest of it. So it's really a sort of a texture issue. So those would be great things to do. The other thing, the tantalizing thing that I'd like to say, but is in the UK, what's really popular, there's this whole class of treatments which I call injectable moisturizers, things like Profilo, but I don't think they've been FDA approved for the States yet. I'm constantly getting messages from the States from people saying, why haven't we got this yet? And you think, I don't know, I thought it was going to be approved last year or the year before. And what those are is they are hyaluronic acid gels, so gels that hold a lot of water in a much more fluid form than you'd find in an injectable filler, and they're placed just into the surface of the skin. So it's like having a moisturizing hyaluronic acid serum just under your skin, where it will hold on to water, encourage that skin remodeling, and they produce lovely results, and they're great for texture too. So to do radiofrequency microneedling followed by some injectable moisture treatments,
that would make sense.
Ideal, as and when they're available to you.
Yeah. Oh, great. Thank you so much. And also that reminds me, also on your website, you'd say, okay, let's look at your concern, and you give, how do you want to attack this with a skincare? How do you want to attack it with a treatment, or how, what is the spectrum there? And I really appreciate that too. So you can attack it from all sides or just one. So we have one question here. What is the best home lifting device, and are they really worth it?
That is a good question. The difficulty is, by the time we're in our 50s, what home lifting devices are you thinking of? Things like microcurrent devices, like the New Face is one I absolutely love. That is great. You have to use it very consistently the whole time. It's great for getting that definition along here. I like it for just propping my brow up on a morning when I'm feeling half asleep. It's good. It's not expensive. You have to keep going with it. So that's probably your best bet. But people will often say, I've got gels. Oh, in the UK, the The sort of mega version with all the interchangeable heads is about 300 and something pounds, but the small one, the mini, that's the one I like because it's about 150 pounds, so $175 depends, and that has all the power of the bigger one. It just doesn't have the interchangeable heads. So I like that as a reassurance, but if you're starting with something like that in your 50s, it may or may not make a difference. It all kind of depends on your face. So that's good. I've also been trying a really good home use radio frequency treatment called the Orlea Dermadeep, but I don't know. I think that's a British device. And I don't know that it's available internationally, but that is so much stronger than all the other radio frequency devices on the home use market. That's really good.
I've got a favorite one that I've been using for 10 years and recommend it to a ton of people with amazing results. And it's called the Galvanic Spa, and it's by New Skin.
Oh, wow.
And you kind of spelled the same way.
Yeah,
as New Face. That's pretty amazing because, you know, you could do a half face and you'll see the difference, and it's in a day.
Well,
but it lasts about 24 hours, but there's a compounding effect so that, you know, like you said, you got to use these things every day. I always tell people, really if it's going to go in a drawer, don't waste your money. But if you're really committed, it'll work. And when I go through sort of stages where I'm like on it every day for like a month or two, and then I drop off the bandwagon, then I pull it out again and I go on it again. So but I do see a big difference. I really trust that one. I love it. I think in the US it's called the facial spa, and in Europe everywhere else is called Galvanic Spa or something like that. But the technology is the Galvanic Wave, so I can highly recommend. I got good experience with that one. I can jump in with that. So, okay, another question. Thank you for this informative session. Our team will be launching a new cosmeceuticals brand later this year based on the cutting edge regenerative medicine science. Before we launch, we would love to send samples to Alizor and others, including influencers, to try our products. We would just need email. Oh, sorry. I thought that was a question for you.
Okay. Up on DMs. I was going to say
I was like, okay, I didn't realize that. Nadia has the Zip, ZIIP.
Yes. That's another great microcurrent device, really, really powerful, well worth persevering with. Again, just use it. And yeah, doing a half face thing is always encouraging, you know, where if you're sitting there in the morning thinking, oh, is it really worth going over? No, Zip is good, Foreo the Bear, Face Gym, what's it called, Face Gym Pro. They are all using very similar technologies, and they will tighten up the muscles, they will improve lymphatic drainage, they will help your contours if you use them consistently.
There's a question, can you use the New Face every day?
Yeah, goodness, every day, twice a day, as often as you like. Yeah,
the New Skin one as well. I recommend just every day is a good thing. Self dermabrasion at home, is it worth it?
Oh, I'm really anti self-dermabrasion at home just because most of us will overdo it. And I see so many dermatologists who complain about that, and increasingly about home microneedling. It's the other thing comes into this category, because you know, if you're using good, strong, effective skincare and you want it to go that bit deeper, you think let's make a few little holes, and it's like sort of aerating the lawn or whatever, you know. Obviously the ingredients are going to be bombed straight in, but a lot of the ingredients in skincare, you know, unless it's something given to you by a professional who tells you to needle your face, that's different. But a lot of the ingredients in normal skincare are not designed to go straight deep into the skin. They're designed to work from the top. So, and also when we needle our own faces, we don't do it quite as carefully as people do in clinic. So dermatologists tell me they see skin that it looks kind of like the surface of a scratched CD or something, because it's just got track marks. It's very easy to get infection. I know a lot of people love home microneedling, and if you do that well, if you are very good on the hygiene and keep your roller nice and clean, and if you buy a good stainless steel roller, fine. But otherwise, and dermabrasion the same. You know, so many issues come from having an impaired skin barrier. You know, the skin barrier is there for a good reason. So sure, exfoliation is great, but I would prefer to exfoliate with a liquid acid-based product, you know, a beta hydroxy acid like salicylic acid, great if you've got oilier skin like mine, or an alpha hydroxy acid like glycolic acid or lactic acid. You know, you don't have to use it a lot, you know, and it's great for shifting off those skin cells, but there's become a bit of a kind of cult of we must exfoliate, and I think it is often overdone. So that's my sense on that.
Yeah, because when you do that first one, your skin is so smooth. You're like, oh, I want this every day. So you would think the more the better, right? Because you do feel a difference if you've done a bit of I'm talking about the just exfoliation, a gentle exfoliation, because I don't recommend people to do that more than twice a week, because it is, but it could be tempting though, because when you first do it, you're like, oh, it's so great. But I'm wondering, we did a podcast with Faraz Khan about skin and scars. And so he was recommending the Dermastamp as opposed to the Dermaroller, because the roller, the little needles can get bent, and then that's when you get all those scratch marks. But he says if there's a stamp, it's less likely to scratch your face. And that, I don't know what your opinion on the Dermastamp is. Have you?
Yes, for sure. I mean, anything that has been given to you by a skincare professional with specific guidance around how to use it, you know, absolutely great. But if you're making up your own routine at home, something with really short needles, Dermastamp is great, because you really don't need to go deep to introduce those products more deeply into the skin. Just be thoughtful about how you do it. You know, use decent products, not things with fragrance in them, not things that are going to irritate. And and that's a really good point about the roller, because the rollers, I mean, some derms quite like them because of this, because as they roll, the needles go in at an angle, round, and then out. So they're creating a little V-shaped rip every time. So, you know, some people will like that because it's creating more damage, therefore there'll have to be more healing. But you know, that seems a bit sort of mad thinking to me.
Yeah. So we should actually do a whole of this podcast on skincare, but today we're going to focus on
anytime.
Anyone here who has questions, you want to unmute? I always like to hear your voices if you are not too shy. I'd love to hear your questions in person. Nadia, Eva, Magdalena always has great questions. I know you do. Unmute, Magdalena.
I can ask a question if Magdalena
needs there you go.
Formulate one. I'm just wondering, thank you so much, Alice. This is really great. I have like a million questions, but I'll just try to condense all of them into one more question, which is, what is your go-to recommendation for jowls, like just drooping jowls and crepey neck, which I thought ultimately nothing but surgery will fix that, especially once you're past a certain age.
This isn't on you, is it? I can't see any.
Yes. No, it's just bad camera or good camera, but no, it's just all falling apart, and I assume surgery is really what's the only thing.
Yes, so surgery would be the gold standard. You know, a surgeon will tell you that. Front doorbell. I wonder if there's anybody else in the house.
You can go check. We'll wait.
Really? Thank you.
Yeah.
Mine. Okay,
I don't mind. Everyone will wait.
Sorry, Magdalena, I'll be right back. Come on, dog.
No, that was Nadia. So we'll actually have this edited out. So not to even worry about it. I'll get to everybody's questions, and I know she's alone.
The part about my face.
Okay, Jonathan, you heard that. Take that out. And then Miran, we'll get to your question too. You can either ask it in person, or I can read it out loud as you like. And then we'll have probably about 10 more minutes or so for questions, and I know Magdalena always has good ones too. So I'd love to hear from Magdalena as well. She's got amazing skin and is so knowledgeable about treatments as well.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Well, I'm following Kelly's for a long time, so I know what is she talking about, posting and so on, and I'm always eager to find out something new. Actually, I know a lot of these procedures because I'm doing on my skin as well. Everything what she mentioned, I'm doing additionally threads. I don't know if she's done sometimes threads. Yes, Profiler is also my my skincare, let me say, regimen for 2 years now, every 6 months. It's great, but I would say you cannot see that much, and it's quite expensive because you have to repeat all the time. Otherwise, if you do one once only, I think you just throw money away. So I have never done microneedling. I would love to. And I have never done plasma treatment. I would like to do as well. All the rest, what she mentioned, I've done. Okay, also not red light therapy. But Botox and fillers, Profiler and threads are my, how to say, golden standard for me.
Sure.
I'm doing every year because I think we have to be consistent with these treatments. Otherwise, how to say, aging catches us, and it's like you throw money away if you do just 1 or 2 times.
Now, can I just say you look absolutely amazing, but yes, to the consistency in treatment, I find it's like, in the UK, we say like painting the Forth Bridge, which is a bridge across a huge estuary in the north. And so the guys who paint it, they start at one side, and when they get to the end, they start again. So I think you do.
I'm doing this since I was, I think, 38 or 40. Now okay. I will be 57, and it's absolutely a need on my list before anything else, because I was working in the cosmetic industry all of my life. And I was like, you know, brainwashed since I was 25 that women can have a good look if they take care. So I was really religiously taking care of my skin, actually, since I was a little girl, because my mother was also always taking care of herself. So it was like I was growing up with this formula. We should take care of ourselves. So I'm doing this, and I know that I don't look my age, but if I didn't do everything what I'm doing, I would for sure not look like that. It's impossible because we are aging. Skin is the biggest organ. You can see immediately the age on your skin if people are not taking care.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed the beginning because I had a meeting. I hope I didn't miss something very important. But anyway, Zora, I will listen to a podcast when you will sit on.
I think whatever you're doing is working beautifully, so just keep it up.
Thank you.
Threads are something I haven't tried. I've never been that keen on the idea, but I can see that they do work very well for some people. So I'm very curious about them.
I think that you should do more treatments together, not just threads, because if the skin is like empty, it's not filled, then threads are not helping, you know. I'm always doing together with fillers or with Profiler, and a very good friend of mine, Dr. Burgic, Zora knows, she's a real expert on threads, and she's doing these threads for, I think, maybe 15 or 12 years, something like that. She really begins immediately when this came to the market, and she started with mesotraps. They're doing like a kind of net on your face, and it's really kind of foundation that your skin is lifted. And then if you don't have your fat anymore, she's putting additionally filler or this Profiler now, and I think it's a great combination. But just threads for age 50 plus, I think it's not enough.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
The skin is already too saggy, and if it's not filled with something, if there is the loss of our fat, I think it's not helpful. So as you said before, we really should always doing these things together with a real good professional, with a very educated doctor who knows his job. So all the rest some, I can tell you because I had a company in Bosnia, and there every cosmetician could do everything. These non-invasive cosmetic procedures. I'm from Slovenia. In our country, this is prohibited, but you can find some places, everyone is doing everything. And people always calculate, because these procedures are expensive in general. So they try to find a good price, but I would always say a good or low price is always a red light. So
very true.
We shouldn't decide.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let's go back to Nadia's questions. I think we were in the middle of answering her question about the
Magdalena's question about jowls.
Jowls and the crepey neck. And is it surgery the only thing?
Radiofrequency microneedling or laser can be really helpful in tightening up if it's loose skin. If there is too much fat under the jowl, which I don't think it is in your case, then either fat dissolving injections, which literally dissolve the tiny pockets of fat, or fat freezing treatments like cool sculpting or whatever, they can get rid of little pockets of fat. If you know, some people have like a double chin, but around the sides, that kind of jowls. But if it's just saggy loose skin and a crepey neck, you know, for non-surgical treatments, the laser or radiofrequency microneedling are good for tightening the skin, or that ultrasound treatment I was mentioning, Softwave. I've seen some nice results with that, or a bit of filler along the chin and jaw, because that just enhances the outline of the jaw, and that disguises whatever is underneath it. So a surgeon would tell you the only thing to do is a facelift, because they always do, and they say you should probably have had one when you were 35. That's what I'm often told. I think, well, I didn't, and it wasn't an option, because they'd like you to do a facelift early, because then you will recover quickly and it will last longer. But yeah, non-surgically, there's a certain amount you can do for the lower face and neck, but it won't give you the sort of long-lasting, very clean-cut results of a lower facelift. Low face and neck lift.
Does that
answer your question, Nadia?
Yeah. Thank you. Oh, maybe I can jump in with another one. Do you think, do you have a preference of RF microneedling device? I mean, you mentioned Morpheus,
no,
Vivace, or the Cynosure one. Does it make a difference?
I think it's the practitioner that makes a difference. I've tried one or two of them. What did I try last year? I tried Profound RF, it's a very intense form of it. They claim that one single treatment can give you the equivalent of 1/3 of a facelift results, and it's intense. So the needles are very long. You need local anesthetic all over the face. You swell like mad for days afterwards, and you're quite bruised. And I didn't mind this, because I was saying to the practitioner, this was on a Saturday, and I said, well, I'm filming on Wednesday, will it be okay? And she looked a bit like, and I said, well, you know, I'm sure the things with all this hair, I can usually just sort of hide behind and say, hi, everybody. And in fact, because my face is going kind of gaunt with age, a bit of extra volume through here wasn't too bad. But that one worked really well. And if you look on my website, there was a post I put up on New Year's Day this year, where I listed all the things I tried in the course of last year. And there is a picture of a before and after of my jawline, and what that one Profound RF treatment did for my jawline over the course of 3 months. And it really tightened it. So i.e. all that where you get it all gets a bit blurry a lot along the jawline, and it sharpened it all up no end. So that would be my preferred one, but I know most people aren't up for tolerating that much downtime in one go. I don't really have a preference for the others. I would, you know, all the practitioners I speak to who have these different devices, and some have 3 different brands of RF needling in their clinics, which they will use for different presentations for what the individuals are presenting with that's different. You know, and I would leave that choice to them, and because they all say the ones that they've got are brilliant, amazing, far better than the others. So I don't have a preference brand wise.
Great. Excellent. Miran, would you like to unmute and ask the question? Or should I ask?
Yes, this is Meron. Sorry, I'm not on video. It's kind of too early here in the West Coast, but I wanted to find out. We've talked to some dermatologists, and they talk about microneedling. Sometimes some products that need to kind of get through the outer layer of the skin. So is microneedling in combination with some products for stuff? Even like we've heard this in the context of hair restoration and things like that. Is it a good idea to kind of do microneedling and combine it with some other treatment? Is that?
Yes, particularly if it's recommended to you by a practitioner, by a clinical expert. If they say, use this in this, with this needling device and use it so many times a week or whatever, absolutely. Particularly with hair restoration, there's some really interesting products with growth factors and stuff that are coming out here at the moment. I don't know where they sit in the market in the States. And some of those look like they can make quite a difference, which is really interesting because when it comes to hair restoration, people will try anything, and I'm really curious to know which of these many things out there can actually help. I think just basically needling the scalp can also help because it's stimulating that wound healing process. It's waking up the follicles. But what else? So some light therapies can help on the scalp. So if a clinician has said this to you, absolutely, yeah, go ahead.
Alice, thank you for that. And I didn't mean to be pitchy during this informative session, but just so you mentioned growth factors, like I mentioned in my note, where our team is launching a cosmeceutical brand based on like growth factors and what's called exosomes, which is a cutting edge of aesthetic medicine.
Amazing. Yes, we're hearing a lot about exosomes over here. I am intrigued by them.
We should have our products in the market in Q4 of this year.
Fantastic.
So we'd love to get some in your hands and try them out. And, there's some other formulations in there. So it's, that's why not only for skin, but also my question regarding microneedling in conjunction with other treatments, like our products would be for hair restoration too, and things that we're coming up with those kind of things. Yeah, exactly.
Huge potential. Well, drop me a message on Instagram, email, whatever. And I'm going to say, Zora, can I ask what your company is called? What?
Yeah, I can tell everybody the name. We're made up of biochemists, molecular biologists, and some of the top cosmetic dermatologists in the world are getting involved with us. And so the name of the brand I'll share with everyone. I think Magdalena might know this. The name of the brand is going to be called Juva Vita, JUVA VITA, one word.
Amazing. I haven't heard of
no, you wouldn't have heard of it because we haven't even launched it, but we're going to be launching later this year. So we'd love to get your email or figure out a way to connect with you and people on this call if they're interested and get some products in people's hands.
Yeah, you can find me online. Now, I had a briefing a couple of weeks ago from a surgeon friend who's involved in another brand that is launching again, I think first quarter next year, which is exosomes, not exosomes. Yes, it is. I get completely bugged, which is exosomes, but not plant exosomes. So these things are coming, people, and these things are really, really interesting. These things have an immense amount of potential from what I've seen. So I think it all depends what can be used within the regulations of each part of the market. Because in the UK, I'm not quite sure what's allowed with the exosomes that are kind of out there on the loose. I think the doctors who are using them here are maybe using them not exactly off label, but off their own bat, certainly.
There's some guidelines with the FDA, and we're actually planning on doing an IRB study for hair restoration with one of the top surgeons when it comes to hair restorations, and then our topical products are going to be coming out, like I said, in Q4. So
amazing. Well, I would love to know. Thank you so much for
absolutely. Thank you so much for this informative session.
Oh, thank you. This is great. Yeah, exosomes. This is, a word that we hear a lot in the biohacking world too. So that sounds pretty exciting. Any last minute questions before we let Alice go? I know she's got to get back to work.
I've got a, I have got a, I'm getting the messages coming through saying, are you actually going to join this thing in?
Okay, we'll let you go. If you guys have more questions, then you just get in touch, right? Alice is on Instagram, she's on Facebook, she's on YouTube. There's so many ways to reach out to her. The tweakmentsguide.com.
Yeah, on the Tweakments Guide, the best way to answer a question and get it ask a question and get it answered, that on the website, thetweakmentsguide.com, there is a little floating button on every page that says Ask Alice. And if you put in your query there, it will be prioritized, because I've got stuff coming in on all channels, and they are usually being collated, but they all end up in the Ask Alice funnel. And that's where they get answered, and in a format where they stay online. You can do it anonymously, but the questions are then there for anybody else coming after you who can see that this question has already been asked. So that is the best way to answer a question, ask a question, and I will do my absolute best to get back to you on there.
Oh, great. So that's the Tweakments Guide with the TWEAK, like a tweak, tweakmentsguide.com. Just go straight there. That's the best place. And the Tweakments Guide has also got a great shop. Please go take a look at that. I've just been browsing and enjoying that. And do you deliver products outside of the UK?
No, not anymore after Brexit. I'm sorry, it's become too complicated. Really maddening. We did, but now we can look at doing it, but it's just become too expensive to be sensible for people. But you can get an idea of the products I like on there at any rate.
I think I'm in Spain a lot, in Europe. Sometimes we can get things through. So maybe if not, I'm going to be in London in September. I'm going to just have to stock up. There's a discount if you guys happen to be in the UK. It's HMA10. That's 10% off any of the skincare for our listeners here. Are there any last words before I let you go that you'd like to tell our audience?
I'd just like to say thank you so much for listening, for connecting, for showing an interest in all this, because I really do think it's a fascinating area. And Zora, thank you for including me I am completely fascinated by your whole area. I think that is absolutely what we all need to be focusing on to ensure a better future for ourselves, and if I can help by advising around the sort of superficial aspects of that with Tweakments, all the better. So thank you.
Oh, wonderful. It's absolutely, I'm so excited to connect you to my audience, and I hope we have another interview coming soon. So have a wonderful day and a good night, good morning for everybody else.
Okay. Bye, everyone.